Hello and welcome to Brokenomics. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at not just the broken economic system, but the broken civilizational structure. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Bossman Carl for this one.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming back on Brokenomics.
That's okay.
So the reason I wanted to do this one is because you recently put out a tweet which set out your thoughts on civilization as a whole and the breakdown that we're experiencing and that we're all faced with and confronting. I thought that was a fantastic subject to get into. Perhaps should we start by just taking a look at the tweet itself?
Yeah, I've been taking advantage of Twitter Blue's ability to write massive tweets. And so I posted, I think that one of the main issues we face is how phenomenally out of control our civilization has become. No matter what the issue, it feels though demons we have conjured are running away with us, and we are now subject to tidal forces that are dragging us along. We no longer have a grasp on things. Instead, we are barely hanging on by our fingertips. Politicians say they will do things, but when was the last time you thought they even could solve one of the issues that we face? Assuming they were all honest and sincere, which among them do you think grasps the scope of the problem and is also capable of devising a plan which would produce the intended results? Everything is a weak-willed rearguard action, which attempts to mitigate the damage and stave off disaster, rather than show a firm hand to master the future. The genie is out of the bottle, the danger is loosed among us, and the only thing to do is ride the tiger until it gets tired and allows us to get off. Who knows where we will be? Nobody, literally nobody, has any predictive power anymore. Nobody knows what catastrophic change should even be militated against, even if it was within our power to do so. We can't legislate against it, we can't raise an army to conquer it, nor can we eloquently persuade it to leave us be. All the traditional methods of overcoming problems have been rendered obsolete. Nobody has any ideas left, and those most influential seem to be insistent that we lean into the change and go with the current, and let it do with us as it sees fit. As we are spirited along by the forces that possess us, we are impelled to soothe our own sense of powerlessness through the anachronistic political theatre that is democratic politics. But it's clear that the vote has become a coping mechanism in the face of a technological monsoon which we cannot do anything but attempt to weather. Moreover, everyone can see that things are getting gradually worse and not better, which is why the people in the know look so afraid of the future. It would be one thing if things were mysteriously improving because of the demon we have summoned, but it is clearly causing things to degrade, and eventually degrading things fall apart. Catastrophe is coming, and collectively we don't have the wherewithal to deal with it.
So that, I think, really resonated with me, and I'm sure it did with a lot of people hearing that now. What is it that prompted you, more than anything, to write that at this time?
It's really that I just don't think anyone is in control of what's happening. And that's probably the biggest blow to conspiracy theories, is that there isn't a master pulling the strings. There are people engaging in conspiracies, and there are people pulling strings.
Yeah.
But the level of control that they exercise, I think, is overstated. And there are forces working in society at the moment that people don't know. What they can't say in 5 years' time what AI will be doing, what immigrants will be doing. They can't say in 10 years' time what will be the consequences of the way that we've changed the economy. They can't say in 15 years' time what will be the consequences of the change in education that we've made. They can't say in 20 years' time what the consequence of the dramatically declining birth rate will be. They can have some vague guesses, but things are popping up which we didn't see coming. And I think this will keep happening, and the things that occur will be even further outside of the bounds of normalcy from our perspective. And so by the time we retire, the world will be a very different place.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into some examples of that, because it instantly resonates when you think of characters like, say, Rishi Sunak or Giorgia Meloni, and I'd imagine those are the type of characters that you're thinking about, where they've gone in with a lot of, and Boris Johnson, a whole bunch of these characters. They've gone in with a set of promises, and they appear to be saying the right thing. Now, Giorgia Meloni, I think we all liked the message that she was giving. I think what's happened is she's gone in, somebody has shown her the numbers and said, look, you can either have your pension system collapse, your welfare system collapse, or you can have mass immigration. And she's gone, mass immigration it is then. Somebody like Rishi Sunak, I think he probably does understand a lot of this stuff, but for whatever reason, he's not acting on any of it.
I think that he's going to be insulated from the effects of it.
Personally.
Because he's so phenomenally wealthy. He didn't become Prime Minister through popular acclaim.
Yes, but do you think that if somebody who did not have his personal wealth, somebody who came from very humble upbringings and managed to get a modest middle-class existence becoming a...
It's not just personal wealth. He also has somewhere to go.
Yes, and the network, the globalist network.
Yeah, he's got ties to another country. He's got ties to the supranational network that we see forming across the world. He's not bothered if this place collapses.
But what about some counterexamples? And I want to throw at you perhaps Bukele in El Salvador, and perhaps Viktor Orban in Hungary. Now, in both of those cases, they have effectively become ostracized from the globalist community because of the actions that they've taken. However, both of them are enormously successful. And actually, you could probably throw Putin in that pile as well. He is a more controversial pick, but he's very popular within his nation, and he's very, regardless of whether the viewers believe it or not, by and large, the Russian people believe that he is acting in their interest, and he's popular for that basis. But maybe we can stick to Bukele and Viktor Orban. In both cases, they've done a series of unpopular things, and their nations appear to be healing as a result.
Yes, for now. The problem is that these are not nations on the technological forefront, and these are places where changes will arrive there that will be impossible to hold back. And so this is what I mean by a rearguard action. You can, for example, in the case of Hungary, say, well, we need to raise the birth rates, so we will encourage various family-friendly policies, and if you have 4 children, you don't pay tax or something like that, which is a brilliant strategy that I wish the Conservative government would adopt, because I wouldn't have to pay any tax. But the reason that you need to do this is because there is a generative force that is operating on your country that without this external action would wash over like a river and a dam, right? And so you have to build the dam. But the dam is only going to hold as long as the will and the strength of the Orban faction obtains. And so if he stood still, pushing in one direction, the world continues to change around him, and eventually his position may simply just become untenable, or he simply dies of old age. And if his successor is not up to the job of doing what he has done, then the dam will collapse and the river will continue flowing. The problem is the flow of the river itself.
Right.
And that is it's a raging torrent. We can see it happening. And it's affecting the people who we might be pleased are being affected. Like, I'm never going to weep for a journalist or a Hollywood writer being put out of business. But
it's all of us.
It's all of us. It's going to wash over. They were just at the head of the river.
So effectively you're saying that, the global civilizational river has taken a fork, and it is heading in the direction of some form of decay, some sort of globalism,
I don't know if I'd
some
say
sort of
it's even a
collectivism.
fork. It may be that we've always been on this path. The flow of the river may not have changed, but we've arrived at a place where, at least in previous eras, it felt like politicians could reasonably do something. Right? It felt like the option, at least the sovereignty of the country was in the seat of government, and they could make a decision that would change the course of the country. But it seems at this point that has. The people in charge of the countries are not actually in charge of the countries. There is clearly an international agenda that's occurring, and the winds are blowing in a particular direction. And those leaders, like that you mentioned, A, they're ostracized, and B, I don't think that what they're doing will be permanent.
Yes.
I think that it's a temporary...
Because they're paddling very hard against the civilizational river,
Exactly.
But it's taking a great deal of effort to do so.
Exactly. And the current is flowing in a particular direction. The question is, why is it flowing in this direction?
Yes. So is this essentially we're looking for nuance in the cock-up versus conspiracy argument?
No,
or
not
emergent
really.
behaviour versus a plan? I mean, what are you thinking here?
I don't really know. I mean, I would suggest that this is a confluence of forces that has come about because we have vast institutions that are intent on doing the thing that we expect them to do, right? So the technology sector, the science sector, the international sector, the NGOs, things like that. All of these things have an effect. They continually engage in production of something, and that thing is brought out into wider society and has an effect on the world around it. Otherwise they wouldn't do the things they're doing. And so whilst they are motivated by a moral impetus, a profit motive, and
right.
a kind of, they view themselves on a civilizational mission, right? They view themselves as attempting to master nature, conquer technology, defeat disease. They are on a civilizational mission to achieve something. And while they are on this mission, we will continue to see it cascade forward as it is. But I'm genuinely concerned about what Boston Dynamics are doing when it comes to robots. I saw a video the other day that was just like the last 20 years of their robotics development. And it's incredible how much it's improved. But we've actually arrived at the point where, hang on a second, we can actually have armed robots marching around now. Like
they are being worked on. I mean, there's a Netflix documentary now on the militarization of these robots.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and the scary thing, of course, is when you combine the advances that are being made in AI at the moment.
Yes.
Because we know with Tesla cars, they have quite a sophisticated real-world understanding. Mm-hmm. We see from OpenAI...
Spatial awareness. Yeah.
Yes. So they can recognize the space around them and understand how to react to it, and they can react to it far, far quicker than any human ever could. Whether they have the dexterity to actually move around at that speed is another question, but they can recognise what needs to be done in an environment a lot quicker. You've got the open AI effort, which is showing that they can display a level of sort of human level awareness. Now, whether it is a true human level awareness is another matter, but the point is the time that if you were to connect somebody to it through like a chatbot or something, the time it takes you for you to recognise it's getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
I've done tests with it where it can quite accurately pick out the emotional subtext from a piece of text or something like that. So you combine AI with robotics. And you put on that any sort of growth rate at all. It's simply a question of time as to when you have basically the perfect foot soldier. And if that is in the possession of a fairly narrow group of elites who pursue their own interests.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.